Hello everybody, I'm Justin from Playing Board Games, and today I'm excited to bring to you a new video series. We're going to be diving deep into the Drowned City and cards within the Drowned City. We're going to be checking out these cards, seeing what they're all about, and basically trying to learn what we can and try to understand as much about the card before I actually start, trying out these cards and decks and seeing how they're going to stick, how they work. Just try to figure out what these cards are. For this first one, we're going to be checking out nautical charts. This is a 3-cost survivor asset that takes up your hand slot. It's an item, tome, and a tool. Also commits for 1 book. While nautical charts is in your hand, you may perform the below action ability, and if you do, you get to discard nautical charts instead of exhausting it. As an action, you can exhaust nautical charts to investigate. You get +1 book for this investigation. If you succeed, you may discard 1 card from your hand to discover 1 additional clue at your location. There's been a lot of hype about this card, and I think pretty fittingly this card is very powerful. As I've seen some people say online, this card is basically just turning any card in your hand to a deduction, which is good, right? I think it maybe loses some things at higher player counts, but I think for 2 players especially, even solo for some locations, nautical charts is going to be really nice at just being able for you to win the game quicker. But let's get a little bit deeper. With a cost of 3, this card is comparable to other hand assets that get clues, because this does take up a hand slot. Some examples off the top of my head: Grim Memoir, I believe, costs 3, sorry. Well, it doesn't give you extra clues. It still gets clues and draws cards, so the value prospect is still kind of there. Mariner's Compass is a very close comparison to nautical charts because it's a survivor asset, takes up a hand slot, gets extra clues, uses 1 of your 2 resources. It's unfortunate that they call resources in this game resources because cards in hand are also a resource, and like Mariner's Compass, nautical charts also uses your hand, uses your resources. They just come from a different space, but they're not the same resources that you would normally assume with what people call resources in this game. Because this card requires you to discard cards, it's nice to have a plan to take advantage of those discarded cards. So this can be in things like Winging It, Glimmer of Hope, etc., etc. While the prospect of this card just means something to something that's just turns every card in your hand into a deduction, I think like Mariner's Compass and Dark Horse in general, the card pool has gotten big enough that if you have an entire card pool or you're playing with a legacy style format, it's a little bit hard to just basically cards are better than just a deduction, which might sound crazy, right? But it's actually kind of true, right? There's a lot of good cards in this game that are going to just get more value. So I think nautical charts is going to be at its best when you're able to take advantage of it with things like Winging It and Glimmer of Hope, etc., etc. Which luckily Glimmer of Hope, the upgraded versions, actually came out in Drowned City, which is really nice to play with nautical charts. I mean, Drowned City in itself has a lot of synergy with nautical charts. George Barnaby and a lot of good value exists in the card pool here. If you already have a nautical charts in play, you can discard the other one from your hand to activate its own ability or as an extra clue for your first nautical charts. This is nice because the second one's never a dead draw in 2 ways. One, it can be an activation for your first nautical charts, or with both nautical charts, 1 in play, 1 in your hand, you can essentially get 4 clues at the cost of 3 cards, I think, when it's all said and done, which isn't terrible, right? Especially if, again, you're taking advantage of it with things then you put that Winging It into your discard pile or that Glimmer of Hope into your discard pile and you draw it again. Additionally, a free activation is really nice. It kind of turns nautical charts into an event, which is really cool, and a free event to do this with. What I also like about this ability is that it works really well for flexes. They want to hold nautical charts in one hand and maybe something else in their other hand that they can fight with, which I think is really, really cool. This card is in the survivor class. This means that they have a lot of discard synergy in their pool. So a lot of people said in this expansion that Patrice Hathaway was eating good in this expansion, and I ultimately very much agree. I think that she did. She's gotten a lot of cards that work with this, but I think that the biggest thing that came with this is that Survivor had a lot of discard synergy before, and now they have some payoffs to go with it as well in the form of Lawrence Carlisle and then the charts and all these other hand assets, which I think is really powerful and exciting for the class. Don't neglect the 1 book icon that nautical charts can be committed for in a pinch. Yes, you can use these things to get other things, you can use nautical charts to activate nautical charts, or alternatively you can use it to like discard to get an extra clue with your first nautical charts. But sometimes someone needs one book, right? And it's not the worst thing to do to commit this to your own test or someone else's test, just to beat those more like those lower negative modifiers, I guess higher negative modifier tokens, even though the numbers technically are lower, but they're higher, but let's not worry about that. Oh, I went the wrong way. 1 second. Okay, we're back. Let's see what's up. Oh, there's something wrong. I gotta fix this. Give me a second. Okay, sorry about that. It wouldn't be a PBG video without a little mistake. It happens. All right. This is a tome and a tool, meaning that Parallel Daisy, Wilson Richards, and Keimani Jones can use it. This is kind of cool, because I think that actually, like, not so much like Keimani, but Wilson Richards actually has some cool, like, push to the limit synergy that he can do, so I think that this is a cool place to kind of check this out. The Parallel Daisy also ain't awful either, because Seeker has a lot of card draw, which kind of defeats the negative purpose of the spending cards in your hand to discard to get clues. And I actually think that also this is why, like, any Survivor Seeker is going to really enjoy playing with nautical charts, because this card is level 0, baby, which means that anyone with Survivor Splash or Survivor can get into it, which is pretty exciting. This card was released in 2025, which is notably the current year. A nautical chart is one of the most fundamental tools available to a mariner. It is a map that depicts the configuration of the shoreline and the seafloor. It provides water depths, locations of dangers to navigation, locations and characteristic of aids to navigation, anchorage, and other features. This is, of course, coming from https://oceanservice.noaa.gov/fact/nautical_chart.html. Silas is a sailor, and this card may open up a new discard flex archetype for the investigator, which is exciting. I think that Silas has kind of just been on the edge of that one piece to make him super flexible, and I think that he actually got a lot of great tools. I think Gift of Nodin is another one here, but that's going to be on a future diving deep into Drowned City, so today we're just going to be focusing on nautical charts. But I do think that nautical charts is really good for Silas, and like, I think that he is going to be able to flex with it in a way that I think is potentially kind of cool. I think it's exciting. I don't know if it's going to be good, but I think that it's going to be a nice thing for Silas to potentially be able to explore. Additionally, George Barnaby is on a boat, which is another reason this card was likely included in the Drowned City expansion. Well, George Barnaby isn't a sailor in the same way that Silas Marsh is a sailor. George Barnaby is often depicted on a boat, and he actually has 2 different card arts in Drowned City that showcase him on a boat, which is another good reason why this card was included with that. Additionally, Marian Tavares, she also can play this card because she can play 5 level 0 Survivor cards, which is like not a bad thing to use for her hand slot. She does have, I believe, 3 book. I don't know. I haven't checked her out for this series yet, so I actually don't know what she has off the top of my head. But George Barnaby on a boat, another reason why this card could have been included in the Drowned City. The art for nautical charts is by Pixeloid Studios, who do a lot of item art for this game, and I think they have actually a lot of like cool, so they do some location art too, especially in Scarlet Keys, which was really nice. When building a deck that includes nautical charts, it can be a good idea to ask yourself if you also want to use other assets in the same cycle as nautical charts. Sorry, 1 second. I noticed that I made a little mistake. I wrote includes, so let me just fix that up. Okay, perfect. Anchor chain, hand hook. While I don't think that like hand hook doesn't seem that efficient in comparison, anchor chain will be a good tool to lock down enemies for evading. And you'll notice that these cards are actually very similar. Anchor chain, 3 cost, hand hook, 3 cost. While anchor chain is in your hand, you may perform the below action ability, just like on nautical charts. Same with hand hook. While hand hook is in your hand, you may perform the below action ability. If you do, discard hand hook instead of exhausting it. And they each have a similar thing where you may discard a card to either evade or fight, to either freeze that enemy down or to attack that deals +1 damage. As I said, each of these assets costs 3, which is a good design line through the cycle of cards. You can tell that because they are all nautical themed, and they also all discard, and they also all cost 3, and they also are all an item and a tool, and they also all take a hand slot, and they also all have the ability in which you can discard them from your hand. These cards all synergize together. But there's one other little piece of synergy, which is additionally, all the cards art is done by Pixeloid Studios, which I think once again paints a very good narrative and mechanical theme to connect these cards. And they also, sorry, I forgot this one, they were all also released in 2025. If you spell the word nautical in Scrabble, you will gain 10 points. This is due to the fact that most of the letters are worth 1 point. N, A, U, T, I, and L, They're all only worth 1 point in Scrabble. The juicy thing here is the C, which is worth 3 points. The highest scoring legal Scrabble word is oxyphenbutazone. With all the bonuses tiles totaled, that sucker, an obsolete anti-inflammatory medication evidently, will net you 1,778 points. And this is, of course, from wordfinder.yourdictionary.com/blog/25 high-scoring Scrabble words you all... Unlike Arkham, which was released in 2016, Scrabble was invented in 1931 by Alfred Butts. And I think it's safe to say, after all this, that Nautical Charts is anything but Butts. I'd in fact go as far to say that it's a great card, and it's going to be a tool that players are going to be using for as long as it stays in current, and I think it's even going to find homes in decks even going into Legacy. So with all that, after this deep dive, I give Nautical Charts a score of 3.5 stars out of 5. I think it's a fantastic card, and I think it's going to do a really good piece for Survivors. Thank you. That was my deep dive into the Drowned City, Nautical Charts. Keep your eyes open for the next one where we're going to dive into Blood of Thoth and see if it is exactly as bad as people say it is. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to support our channel, you can do so by liking, commenting, subscribing, or you can join all of these awesome people here on our Patreon, where we have 4 levels that you can pledge for: Acolytes, Seeker of Carcosa, Wizards of the Order, Knights of the Circle. All of this helps me do what I do and makes more of these videos for all of you. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a good one. And as always, a GG's.